Hi, and welcome to Virtual Vision FM. I'm Era Parisian, international medium and spiritual teacher, and I am here today with the wonderful Nina Ashby, international psychic and spiritual teacher, among other things. And for the first time in a long time, we have the wonderful Nick Humphreys, international medium and trance medium and trance healer. Welcome, you guys, and it's wonderful to see you, Nick.
Yeah, hi. It's great to be back.
Yeah, getting back in the saddle, it's nice to have you back. Now, I will say that Ted Woodruff is not with us this week. He's under the weather, and it seems to be going around. I mean, I've been down a couple of weeks in a row. So Ted hopefully will be back with us next week. Today we have an interesting discussion planned for you, simply because there's nothing that happens in life that doesn't cause reason for us to talk and communicate, especially when it comes to our feelings, and ask those important questions. What happens and why things happen the way they do. And we're the same as everyone else. We have these incidents and events in our lives that really impact us and make us, sad. And they're hurtful things, and yet we have to find ways through them as well. So we're going to talk today about losing a pet, and I know I've lost enough in my lifetime so far, and I'm sure you all have as well, have been touched by that special furry family member. So Nick, I know that you've had a very trying week this week, particularly in that regard, and I just wondered if you could share with us what exactly happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, we lost another one of our loved dogs, Bruce, who was a rescue. In fact, we were to foster the home for him, so we didn't legally own him. But the moment we saw him, we connected with him. He was here for only 8 months. He was a Rottweiler, beautiful dog, really sort of soppy. He was just a great character, really. He would literally, I would lie on the floor and he would roll me around on the floor. That's how strong he was. But he had a few issues. He had bad legs. Rottweilers are prone to being overweight and with bad legs, and which indeed he did. But yeah, on last Sunday, so a week ago, he had a session where he was panting quite heavily, and then he unfortunately he threw up in the front room. It wasn't very nice, and he took himself out into the garden. In fact, we opened the door so he can get a bit of fresh air. And as he walked past, I just had this awful sense that he took himself out there to die, and I said to my wife, I said, he's gone out there to die. But we coaxed him back in, and for the rest of the evening he was okay. Monday and Tuesday he was okay, and then I heard my wife take out the 2 dogs for a walk, so I quickly jumped in the shower, as I do. But whilst I was in the shower, something didn't feel right with me. By that time, Helen was back with the dogs, and I was getting changed, and it still didn't feel right. And I linked into Bruce to see where he was, and he told me he was in the garden, but he told me also that he'd gone as well, and I was like, holy hell, okay. So I kind of rushed into the front room, put me contact lenses, looked out the window, and there he was underneath a bush. So I ran out to go and see him, but he'd already gone. So he just took himself out there to die, as he told me he would probably at some point. So yeah, it kind of left me with a question as well in my mind as well. Is that when our pets pass, do they pass? Do they resurrect? Resurrect's not the right word. Reincarnate. Thank you. Do they reincarnate into another dog, or do they go into another form? Do they come back as another form? And it's a question that I've been baffled with since he passed, really. And that's why I kind of, when we were discussing about what should we talk about during the show, I put this in because I'd really like to hear what people think. I mean, I do believe obviously they do come back to us in a form of a dog. You know, so Bruce will come back to us in a form of a dog. A cat will come back to us in the form of a cat. But it depends on your belief system, doesn't it? Because I know, is it the Hinduism? You go through what they call the lesser life. So they go you work your way up back into a human form, if you want to call it a lesser life. So it's just intriguing to me as to what people would think. As I say, I believe that, you know, Bruce, Ben, Taro, Holly, and then also they will come back to us in dog form, and then Herbie, our horse, will come back to us at some stage as another horse. So I don't know what you guys think.
Nina, do you have a comment or two?
Okay. Well, to me, all sentient energy it's not a matter of hierarchy or what you deserve or reward or anything like that. To me, animals are hearts and minds and lives, and I don't know if they come back as a dog or a horse or any other kind of animal or even a human. But I know that they come back because all energy is matter that reforms itself into some kind of living matter. And the energy of the personality energy of that pre-existent being, your dog or a person who passes, remains in the astral, in the upper astral, connected to a soul group of some sort, because as above, so below, after another manner. You know, if it's happening for humans that there are dog soul groups or animal soul groups, and things do progress, and they have lives. And I know, and as you know, Nick, that when we tune into spirit, you know, we can see the pets around them, the cats draping themselves over the owner's shoulder, or, you know, the dog nipping at the heels, or, you know, begging for a treat, or doing, you know, running for a ball as they did in life. And, you know, we can describe those pets and their personalities, and also hear the whispers of their soul voice in our minds and our hearts. So to me, it kind of doesn't matter how they do it. I'm not sure exactly of the mechanism, but I know that there must be animal soul groups too, because they have sentience.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, my mind is, you know, obviously we link into spirit, we can link to anybody's loved ones, we can link to their pets, as you've said. My mind is that obviously, you know, in past lives, if we go to a different stage of this, in past lives, you know, Era to me would have been maybe my sister or my mother, but to Bruce, he could have been, you know, he could have also been a person rather than a dog. So my question is like, do they come back in a different form? And I suppose I've answered my own question, because yes, of course they do. But yeah, there are soul groups, you know, where the animal kingdom and the you know, human kingdom, I suppose, or spiritual kingdom reside together and also in unison. So I just think it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you move from an animal soul group to another soul group, you know, or from one animal, from a dog to a cat, or is there a hierarchy? I don't know any of that, but I mean, we know that domesticated animals have, you know, a tremendous connection with the human kingdom, and I suppose maybe there is a link to that.
Well, I don't. My line of thought is that yes, of course, animals are going to reincarnate because energy, you know, will just keep transforming and morphing and morphing and morphing, just as it does with humans. Whether an animal will actually choose to reincarnate as a human, I just view the two as two separate learning curves of consciousness.
Mm.
you know, humans are on this really steep learning curve where we're expected to evolve from, you know, fear of survival and all that kind of stuff, and evolve into unconditional love, where animals are already that. So they should automatically, to me, be on another learning curve. And maybe that learning curve is to just encourage human beings to love unconditionally. And so I really can't see. I mean, if I was a dog, I wouldn't want to come back as a person.
No,
I just
no. I'd want to be fed and given a nice place to stay and taken out for walks.
Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, I think that they would keep coming back until they've evolved along their learning curve to the next adventure, whatever that might be for them. And the same for humans. You know, we'll just keep evolving until we evolve out of the necessity to learn through victimizer kind of events, right?
So you're saying you actually believe then that a dog can choose its what it needs to learn in this life?
A dog, to me, has already kind of mastered the unconditionality and the conditionality, and so they're here as way showers for humans to remind them of what is possible.
No.
So they would reincarnate along the same lines. I mean, they might get they might get another lifetime as a dog. They could come back as a cat or a mouse. I mean, it just depends on what their learning curve is. We don't really have had access, possibly because we haven't really attempted to go that route, to understand, you know, what are they learning and what are they doing. We're more involved along with the human animal, so to speak. But yeah, I think they know exactly who they need to come to. And I mean, how many animals have you had, Nick, where you swear that they are a reincarnation of a pet you've had in the past? It's because that pet still knows that you need it, that there's something more it can give, not necessarily learn, but give. That's unconditionality, the willingness to come back to this dualistic plane of existence and run the risk of suffering before it even gets to you, right? So, yeah, I'm just thinking it's not cut and dried per se, but I really see it as two distinct learning curves. And yeah, let's see what some of the people in the chat.
That's a really good point. Yeah, so I'm going to refer to Lynn Delaney. First of all, hello to everybody in the chat room, and thank you for participating, and we would like more of your comments. But Lynn has said, I have one dog reincarnate in this lifetime, and one of my dogs decided to be a guide for me instead of reincarnating. And that in her view, they are here to help in our lessons. What do you think of that?
I'm just busy reading the other comments as well. It's quite interesting.
Right. With Colin saying, because we have technical abilities, we've not got to the stage of unconditional love. What gives us the reasoning that all life reincarnates up to human animal form? Good point, Colin.
Well, that was something. That was an argument that I had with a client actually. Well, it wasn't a client. It was in a development group. We were talking about the unconditional love aspect and the animal human side of things. And this person turned around and said, "Well, you know, animals they're not unconditional, are they?" And I'm like, "Of course they are, completely unconditional. You know, who's to say that we are the hierarchy of the animal world? You know, we're not." You know, in fact, we are the lesser to the animal kingdom, personally, because they're so unconditional. They give what they need to give, whereas we question everything. You know, we put everything forward, sometimes in a negative aspect, where they don't really know the negative, do they? Unless they're getting in an argument with another dog, or that. But that's more a case of protection, isn't it? So yeah, that's quite an interesting question there or statement that Colin's made. Silence.
Yes, I mean we can only see things from a human perspective, and so we tend to assume that that's so. But it is truly a very good point that, in conjunction with what Era was saying, that there are different strands to consciousness, and they, even though they connect at some high level point, or that it disintegrates, if you will, or reintegrates, whichever way you want to look at it, there's no contradiction in having these different strands.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just pass the note here. Sorry to butt in. I think our pets are here to teach, guide, and support us. They are much higher spiritual beings than us. So that was a note.
Said that?
That's my wife. She just passed me a note.
Oh, thank you.
I think, and Helen, hi. I think Helen's onto something there, and that's sort of along the lines of what I was saying earlier, and that is they aren't here to learn that much at all. They're here to give.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're so right, Nick, when you said, you know, what do we give? We don't know how to be unconditional. We like to say, oh, unconditional love here and unconditional love there, but oh, look what that person just did. Oh no, that can't be right. There's so much judgment that we don't have time to even explore unconditionality, where an animal already is that, and so they are the shining example of what can be, and really a direct reflection of the energy that we are, because if we can see it, then we own it. It's when people don't see it that they can't accept it, because they don't even know it exists. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, absolutely. So I think also, you know, as you said before, you know, some animals or pets come to us to actually test us, to test us on our spiritual level as well. So I think with Bruce actually being here for only 8 months, and the connection that, you know, we didn't walk him that much because he couldn't walk that far, but you know, we know that actually we gave Bruce, you know, a better home than what he had in the kennel, you know, and that he felt what love was like to be given back to him also, because we did love him. He was such a great dog. You know, if you saw any pictures on Facebook about him, you know, the way that he was laying on our bed, that was when we first got him. That was within the first couple of days we got him. You know, he just made himself at home. So, right, this is my bed. Actually, it wasn't. It was our bed. Off, you know. Yeah, but if we allowed him to be in our bed, we'd be sleeping on the sofa because he was so big. Yeah, but he had so much to give also. And I think, you know, he was a very spiritual dog also. I think, you know, to the point where this is not very spiritual. He made us laugh the other night because he walked past me on the sofa and he just sort of looked over me over the arm of the sofa, looked at the floor, looked at me again, and then he put his head down and then picked up a dirty piece of paper. There's a bit of paper that was on the floor, picked it up and put it on the side of the arm on the sofa, and then walked off. So that was his character. He was just cleaning his path before he could move forward, sort of thing. It was really funny. Hang on, I've just been passed another note, so hang on. We get caught up on the hamster wheel of life and allow ego to... I can't read your writing, sorry.
We get caught up on the hamster wheel of life and allow ego to rule. Our pets try to teach us to reconnect with our higher selves. I see this now more in my new job with me working with the horses. I see, you know, if I go out to work and I'm feeling stressed or I've allowed life to get on top of me, they teach me by how they react to me and my mood and energy. They teach me to step back from all of that and just to reconnect with what's really important again, and just to sort of come down a level. I think animals give us a very good mirror to ourselves in how they react to our energies. So they're good teachers. We do well to listen to them a lot more, I think.
There you go. That's Helen.
My penny's worth it.
Well, thanks, Helen, because I totally agree with you. Totally. And again, that's animals giving, and they get it. And Nick, you said something about you were able to give that love back. It's because that animal showed you how to do it to begin with. I'm not saying you were cold and callous and didn't know how, but
it can be.
Don't get me wrong. But those animals, that's all they know how to do is to love. And that allows us the freedom to reciprocate. And imagine what a world we would be living in if we did that with human beings.
Yeah, I know it would be such an easier place to live in, but unfortunately it's a difficult place.
Well, I think animals in our lives represent the gift and the respite that we crave here on this plane, because it is a very challenging place to learn and grow and evolve. But animals, they don't have that need for contrasting events in their life. They just sort of, oh, here I am, just love me, and everything's great, and they allow us to go to that place within ourselves and be that for each other. So yeah, Bruce sounds like a pretty phenomenal guy.
Yeah, he was. As I say, we only knew him for 8 months, and he made quite a big impression, especially with the people on the yard as well. People were saying, "Oh, I'm going to miss being told off coming onto the yard," because not that he was vicious or anything like that. He just let people know that I've seen you. You're here. So yeah, he was a great boy.
But don't you think too that he only had those 8 months with you and Helen? But don't you think they chose wisely? That he knew at the end of his life that what he needed, and you vibrated that which he required, and the connection was made, and you gave him that loving environment for him to be able to transform, right?
I remember the day we went to go and see him or meet him. This great big brute of a dog came out the gate, and I was in the driver's seat, and I was like, oh my God, he looks really mean. I don't think he's going to be right for us. And Helen's like, no, he'll be fine, And he came up to sniffed us, and then he just tried to get into the car, didn't he? Tried to get into the car to come home with us.
Yeah, when we left, he tried jumping. I think he did jump in.
Yeah, he jumped in the boot, and we had to try and get him out. So, but yeah, he was lovely.
But if I can just interrupt a bit, I know I'm maybe not meant to, but
too late now.
So I know, yeah. I think rescue animals are the absolute epitome of how unconditional animals actually are, because a lot of these rescue animals have been through hell and back in their lives before they get to rescue, and yet they get rescued by somebody and they give everything that they can to that person that's taken them on. They don't sort of hold on to what they've had in the past, and they don't sort of tarnish everybody with the same brush. They have a bad experience with the previous owner. They come to a new owner after rescue, and it's like, oh my God, you're so wonderful, and I love you, and they don't tarnish that new owner with their previous experience, which is, it's what we do. The recent sort of atrocities in Paris, and really all over the world, but it seems that every Muslim or Muslim-looking person now is tarnished with the same brush. That you see it in the news, in the media, that there's mass sort of outcry and hysteria now because every Muslim is a terrorist. Not true, but we we would do well. It's like I said before, we would do well to learn from our animal friends, you know.
Well, I think you're right, because animals, our animals don't.
They don't hold
They
grudges.
don't judge that, you know, we're an animal that only walks on 2 legs.
Mm.
You know, and their lot all walks on 4. So we must be inferior. They don't do that. You're quite right, Helen. I agree. Nina.
I'll go and sit back in my corner.
I'm listening with great interest. I have great respect for animals, but I don't keep any animals as pets, or I'm not kept as an animal pet, whatever, if they choose us. I'm a human animal pet, right? But I think that it brings to mind how all native cultures, Aboriginal cultures, love and respect the animal kingdom and are go into conscious communion with them to connect with their very special powers for healing, for insight and growth, just as they do to our conscious members of the plant kingdom. They commune with the earth and the plant kingdom, or the configurations of the earth, because they are that element of being is also, those are sent to have consciousness and awareness of some sort that we can learn from.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you brought up the healing aspect, and you know, I'm not in that modality, so I really don't have any comment. But the question, I guess, I'm thinking of is, animals sense the energy. That's why I think animals will either take a glorious liking to you, or will be so standoffish because they don't like your energy. So as healers, Nick and Nina, do you find that animals will gravitate towards you because of your healing energy? And how do you make the distinction as to what is required? Who wants to go first?
Go on, Nina. You go first. That's quite good.
As I said, I don't have any animals at home, but when I go to other people's houses who have animals, they always come towards me. They kind of do their thing. They inspect me and connect, and then they connect with me. Sometimes they just sit with me. Sometimes they purposefully interact with me, depending on the kind of animal. And in the process of stroking, interacting with them, connecting with them, I get healing as I give healing. Like in any wonderful healing modality, when you give, you receive. When you heal, you get healing. And it's the same with working with animals. Plus, you get a very special vibration that is very different than working just with spirit energy. I mean, it's the spirit of a conscious being. And so you can get whispers of their truth, which is very profound.
Nick?
I think you touched on something there, Nina, about the vibration, because obviously we are vibration, and also animal kingdom is vibration as well. So we work pretty much the same. So if we walk into a house, we don't get the feel for that house, we won't buy that house. You know, we walk up to someone and we feel that they're not that nice a person, we'll probably walk away. The animal kingdoms pick up on that vibration also. And I think also we have to kind of remember as well that actually care homes and hospitals now are introducing animals into the wards, because cats, for instance, are known to lower your heart rate, you know, if you're feeling stressed or that sort of thing. So they will naturally come and sit in your lap because they know that you are stressed or feeling uptight, so they relax you. Also for dogs that are being allowed to go into that with their owners, when they're going in for an operation, or they're quite worried, because their vibration is together, isn't it? Because they are calming that person. But it also works the same way, human to animal. We should know, because we can tell by our senses that our dog, our cat is not right, and we go and give them a stroke or give them a pat on the head and reassure them. So it's all vibration, where we can actually attach each other's vibration or work or vibrate together. That's what I'm trying to get to. So yeah, I mean, Nina's quite right with the vibration side, and I think that's probably what it is.
I think this whole trend towards using animals in therapy is really fantastic, and that not only bringing cats into care homes, but they have a special service in the UK, not all over the UK, where they actually have dogs that are like pet therapy.
Yeah.
That they bring the dogs to various care homes and visit the members of the people who are in the care homes on a regular basis. So they develop relationships with the patients or the clients, and sometimes it's the only thing that they look forward to, because the relatives don't come to visit them. And it does have all of those other health benefits, not mental health benefits, emotional health benefits, and a feeling of, as you said, unconditional love that that people who are not touched very much, when you're an elderly person in an institutionalized environment, they're not touched. So to have an animal come and cuddle you, lick you, interact with you is a very special thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of animal communication recently as well, and I've had a lot of questions asked about it. How does it work? What do you do? Do dogs bark at you or woof at you? Or do they talk to you in English? And, well, it's just translated, so I understand what they're trying to say. So to me, it's English. But we're working on a vibration, and it's the way that I work is that I won't walk into a room where there's a dog growling at me and go in their head, "Hi, I'm Nick. I'm going to talk to you for the next hour." It literally frightens them to death. But I sit there and I'll talk to the owners. I'll talk to the animal. "Hi, how are you? Stroke it, blah blah." But I'll send out little whispers. I'll send out little messages, and to see what I get back. Either I'll get a voice back or I'll get a vibration back, and it's recognizing that vibration to be a negative or positive. And that's exactly the same as a cat or dog coming up to me and going, "Don't like you," walking off, because maybe I'm giving out a negative vibration on that day, or a positive vibration, depends. So it works on the same vibration, voice, communication, feeling, etc. So it's great.
Yeah. Tina in the chat room has brought forward a really personal. Animals are the same as humans. If they've been badly treated for several years, then their life could suffer from a secondary trauma circle, and it is hard to get them out of that circle. What do you think about that?
Never blame the animal, eh? Always blame the owner. Because it's the end of the way to treat them. That cat or dog is how they're going to be. How they're going to be, aren't they? But you can actually break that circle. Because they're not going to.
Sure.
They're not going to trust you straight away. But it's about breaking down that trust. It's the same as any human. A human that's going to be abused as a child, they're not going to be very trusting of the next person they come and meet. It's just about breaking down those barriers in any way that you can, obviously, and the best way of doing it is by unconditional love, by showing them that your vibration is not a horrible vibration. So, wow, that's a long one.
I know, I was just trying to, and he didn't all post, I don't think. Hold on. Oh, no, there it is. Oh, you did well, Colin. When leave it to you or Nina to kind of run through that and see what's being said, because it probably has a few gems in there, knowing Colin. I
Okay.
get what you're saying, Tina. I'm just not convinced that we should be tarring it with the same brush. As a human, yes, it would be traumatic, and you run the risk of getting caught up in that vicious cycle. Of not being able to trust. But with animals, to me, I see them as completely two separate learning curves, and it might take a while for that animal to warm up, but they, I believe, will break that cycle and break that barrier far more quickly than a human would. And I think it's because they're not cynical and they don't judge. They just go by vibration, and little by little, you treat them with respect and love, then that barrier will come down. You try and do the same thing with a human being, and you may or may not be successful depending upon the depth of the trauma that the human being has endured. So, do we know what Colin has had to say here?
Yes. He's saying that because human beings have such an identification with their physical body as who they are, as I, when humans die and lose their physical body, it's a perceptible process, and they feel that they're losing the value of something. For those as we are accustomed to placing less or understanding the connection of the relationship between our physical body and our spiritual body, or to look at our physical body as, Colin says, valueless, or I would say as a vehicle, the loss is less severe. An animal's death is quite different from that of a human. An animal does not have the same sense of I am, and that feeling is experienced by the group soul. The more a being is individualized, the deeper its descent in the physical plane, the more difficult regeneration becomes. So I'm not sure. The group soul feels the death of an animal as we should the loss of the finger, as something to be compensated for or replaced. I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but I do understand what you're saying about the sense of
I think it's really interesting. Colin, you're talking about the conceptualization of who we think we are, right? The I-ness. And, we pin so much on that energy, actually. When it comes to our passing, I don't know many people who go into it joyfully, willingly, and non-resistant. You know what I mean? We hear the words and the brakes go on, and we kick and scream and fight, and that's the expectation of a human being. But in animals, such as Bruce demonstrated, Bruce had that tree picked out in the garden. He tried to go there first time and was distracted. And so he thought, okay, well, maybe the time's not now. But he knew, and he did not go kicking and screaming and resistant. Animals know. And there is no ego there to form the resistance barrier. He just went. It's perfectly accepted in the moment. Now's my time. And he went and laid down under that tree and left. And that is so vastly different than how, a human being goes, right?
Yep.
It reminds me of how in many Native American cultures, when it was time to die, they took themselves off someplace to die. And there's one movie where there's a scene, I can't remember what the movie was, but where the guy, the Indian goes off to try to, say, it's to my time to die, and the next day he comes back. Well, it didn't happen. But anyway, it is that same kind of feeling of awareness to it, that you can surrender, because it's something that you always say, Era. Human beings are, our legacy is one of love, and we're just moved so far away from it. If we could go back to that, you also embody animals with our animal spirit within us. If we could learn from that and bring that into our consciousness more on a daily basis, then perhaps we would allow our instincts and our true nature to come through more.
And I think that's the perfect role for an animal, especially the dog, or even the cat, as much as it ignores you half the time. mean, mine does. But you know, they still foster unconditional love all the time.
Tina's put in here, animals also suffer mental health issues, etc., same as humans. And I'm sitting there thinking, do I agree with that statement or don't I? And I don't think I do, because because they're born unconditional, very much like a human baby, but they're only conditioned by what they're taught on the earth plane. So in my time that I was working with Battersea Dogs Home in the RSPCA, I had to deal with a Great Dane that was being sexually abused by its master, a man and a Great Dane, you can imagine that. Also a dog that had been chucked on a bonfire on bonfire night. So these are things that we have implemented on them as a mental issue. So you're not going to see a dog running around or a puppy running around with mental issues, are you? Because it's very much like a baby. So I don't really agree with what Tina's saying, that they have. Yes, they do have mental health issues, but only because that's what we've put on them, not what were born with.
And I tend to agree with you there, Nick, because there is something that human beings always do. And I see it all the time in the work that I do, and I'm sure that you see it, and you see it as well, Nina, is that we do tend to project human qualities onto everything, onto guides, and we do it to everything. And so why not do it with animals? But my thing is that animals are so unconditionally loving that I would not. It would pain me to think that we would cripple our animals by believing that they would have human qualities. Because to me, that would not be an advantage. I think that they can experience trauma, but they experience it in such a different way. Is it painful? Of course. Is it traumatic? Of course it is. But they still have this huge capacity to keep on loving in spite of what they've experienced. And it doesn't take them as long to bounce back as it does a human being. Nina?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it is much easier because the animals are closer to their unconditional love. It's more powerful in them. It is that and is a primary aspect of their functioning. So that if you ever watch something like, what is it, The Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan, he always says, oh, it's never the animal's fault, it's never the dog's fault, it's the owner's fault, as Nick was saying before. So he takes the dog out of that environment into a completely other environment where he brings the dog into the pack, and then the pack helps heal him, but he also then retrains the owner and forces them to look at their stuff, and then changes the dynamic. And so it's very actually easy after a while to get instincts are so much stronger, and their connection to what we call unconditional love is very powerful. Yeah. So it is the human environment influences those animals, and they can be healed, or they heal when they're in the right vibration.
Well, when the vibration is conducive to healing and well-being, if someone is if an owner is not within their own health and well-being, then the vibration isn't going to be conducive to healing on any kind of point. But the animal will consistently try to approach unconditionality because that's all it really knows. It's either been suppressed or it hasn't. And that's the way I kind of look at it. Nick?
Yes. Sandra's put a comment in saying, when they're young are taken from them, they also seem to cope better than humans would.
Whoa, Sandra, you said a mouthful.
I don't agree with that.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah. I'm just thinking that, when there's a litter born, the mother tends to nurse that litter, and the mother knows the job is to create the environment to offer independence, because that's the nature of what they do here. They become totally independent far faster. And so, I mean, there are instances where an elephant, in the jungle loses its mother, the baby will cry, and the same with gorillas and everything. And I think that is a natural instinct, but I do believe they bounce back faster than a human being would. A human wants to define themselves by that pain, and an animal will not like the pain, but it will understand and accept and move on from it. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think it depends on the circumstances.
Did you hear that?
It's hard to say. I mean, because I don't live, in an animal's body, but I think the concept of independence is a big one, because animals' lives, well, not all animals' lives, but
well, we don't want to be projecting human qualities onto the animal either, right?
Exactly. But one could say, if we're talking about survival, certainly animals seem to prepare their children for survival a bit better than humans prepare their children for survival, because it's over far
I think it depends on the circumstances, doesn't it? As Helen was saying, it depends on the circumstances. So,
Well, what are the circumstances? Either we project human qualities on the animal or we don't. I don't know where it's selective, really.
If you look
you come over here and say
it. Let's hear from you.
Come on, Helen, we'll see you.
Okay. Not so much projecting human, or maybe, well, it is a mother mourning the loss of her child projecting a human response onto an animal. I mean, you can look at, say, for example, the dairy industry, where cows are forced to have babies to produce their milk, and they have their babies' calves snatched away from them. Now, there's been stories of mother cows trying to hide their baby calves from the farmers in order for them not to be snatched away. And, when they are snatched away, the mother cow bays for her baby, much as a human mother would bay for her baby were her baby snatched away from her. And I think to say that maybe animals don't mourn the loss of a baby the same as a human does is to maybe make them appear incapable of emotion.
I don't think that animals are. I don't think we were saying, Helen, that they don't feel it. They just bounce back a lot quicker than a human being would.
But do they?
I believe so.
There's no way of knowing, though, is there?
Well, no, there isn't.
No, I don't. That's so.
I think under normal circumstances, yes. But maybe in sort of a more farmed situation where they're forced into pregnancy and then they're forcefully having their babies taken away from them. I mean, you get dogs that are rescued from puppy farms that are shut down. They've basically had litter after litter after litter, and quite often those pups are taken away from them a lot sooner than they should be. And you just get an emotional shutdown of that bit.
Mind your language.
Well, no, that's what, So, I think in a, what's the word? In an unnatural situation, I think it does affect them. It's bound to. It must do. It's bound to. If you think an animal is capable of feeling emotion, which I'm certain that they are, to have to go through time and again of having a forced pregnancy and then having your child snatched away, is bound to affect them, I think, anyway, personally.
I know this is going off a little bit, but I think with the emotions of animals, I was doing a reading for a client recently, and then I suddenly saw a tortoise, and I was like, why am I seeing a tortoise? And then the tortoise started to talk to me about his experience, and that he wanted to say thank you to the owner, so this person that I was doing a reading for, in a sarcastic way, because I said, why are you saying sorry? And he said, because she left me out in the garden and forgot all about me, and then I died, right? So I had to explain this to the owner, and she said, yeah, I do remember doing that when I was a kid. I completely forgot about the tortoise. Left it out there, and it was out there for a couple of weeks, and it just died. So, and the tortoise was saying, you know, I was actually really quite emotional that they'd forgotten about me. And that's a tortoise. So
tortoises live a very long time usually, and they collect a lot of information.
Yeah, we're not when they're forgotten about.
Not in the garden, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, they do.
Well, you know, I think this is absolutely fascinating because, you know, we can perceive through our own belief structure what obviously must be occurring, but we don't know for sure. And even though
we don't know how to interpret it.
Well, exactly, and you know, I think we're all the same energy, but you know, the differences in the learning curve, you know, maybe don't. I don't know. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that animals don't feel. I don't think that's a question.
Yeah, they do. Colin's saying in the chat they do have emotion. Just watch an animal's reaction to the death of their young, or even yeah. I mean, there's a classic clip on the moment, isn't there, about a dog won't leave its brother behind because it passed.
Yes.
So, right.
So, yeah,
and, you know, what was being said is that, yes, those are authentic feelings, and no one was saying that an animal isn't going to feel that. What I think was being said was that the animal probably will bounce back from that feeling far faster than a human being would, because the human being tends to identify themselves with that pain, where the animal allows the pain to consume them. They feel it, but they also move through it because they're here to love in spite of what happens. And so are we, but you know, we're so.
That may be the case, but there'll still be some psychological damage about that, wouldn't there?
We don't know.
Yeah.
I have a friend who I'm going to try to get onto the show, who is an animal whisperer, and she whispers to all animals: birds, dogs, cats, rats, everything. So, I mean, I think she could be quite a good guest if she's willing to come on.
I think we've also touched on a really important topic, and thanks to Helen for bringing it up. And it is those dog farms, and it is the dairy situation. And if anyone could see how they slaughter beef, I don't know how anybody could actually eat it afterwards, because the vibration would be so low and despairing that you'd be ingesting that vibration. You know, we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to animals to treat everything with respect and kindness. Even the natives, when they were hunting, their happy hunting ground, they did everything respectfully. They had ceremonies, they had ritual. There wasn't a part of that animal that went to waste. It was shared with communities. There was great thanks given for the life of it. And yet now all we do is round them up and shove them. Yeah, it's ugly and it's awful. And yes, I as a human being will see that and I will be totally disgusted. My heart totally goes out to the animal. So I don't want to give people the wrong impression that, you know, animals don't feel anything, because I have to say they must, right? And yeah, so thanks, Helen, for your contribution today. I thought that was really important
yes.
topics that you brought up. Nick is applauding.
I am.
Yeah, so Colin, yes. Colin says, all we are taught is false. If it was not, why as a child do we see and believe the things that we are taught in school or in school? Yeah, there's a lot of contradiction. Yeah.
Well, you know, that's a whole other topic for another show, let me tell you, right? But it's true. It's true. And, you know, even the Council of 12 that, you know, I am part and parcel of, I swear, they're part of me. They tell us that we have everything backwards, that we live backwards, that we think backwards, and we need to come back to ourselves, most definitely, because we're reaching out trying to find the answers when the answers are us all along, and we just have to be silent and listen and trust. And yeah, it's just the way that it is. And animals are the epitome of unconditionality that we all seek. And the irony of it is that we are already that. We've just lost our way in the expression of it. And animals here are the ones that actually show us the way. Once more. Final
Amen.
thoughts? Final thoughts?
Total agreement.
Yeah, I was just listening to what you're saying. And I completely agree with what you're saying about the Council of 12, that we do live backwards. And, you know, I think it's unfortunately that the animal kingdom at the moment is just, I don't know what I was going to say. It's just suffering because of us. Yeah, completely. You know, I mean, if you want to take it to another higher level, you know, we try to not eat or buy food now that's got palm oil in, because every time I see something with palm oil in, I think of that's another orangutan that's going to die just because of that bit of palm oil. Mm-hmm. So it's our greed basically that's destroying it.
Well, it's greed in our own belief of this entitlement to instant gratification. Whatever is convenient, whatever is fast, that's the way society has conditioned us to be. And good for you for taking the time to understand what it is you are doing and buying and impacting. And we should all be paying attention, more attention to that, and protecting the life that we are and that lives around us.
Well, so I'll just put a comment in there about fishing. I actually really enjoy fishing, especially when I go to Norway. But when I catch a fish, I choose, if it's a certain size, it goes back. If it's big enough for two of us to eat, I give thanks to it. I don't actually do the killing. My friend does the killing on the fish. Yeah. But we give, like a Native American, we actually give thanks to that fish for allowing us to catch it, you know, and then we eat it. So because you know it's nice, it's fish.
Well, you know, again, it's all about respect and, you know, what you're ingesting at the time. And so if it's treated lovingly and with respect and with gratitude, because gratitude is one heck of a vibration, and, you know, it does impact the fish. I mean, all this sounds like a very ludicrous conversation, but it's so true. We're all energy. We all impact each other via our own vibrations. Excuse me. And
it's true.
Go ahead, Nina.
Even the whole thing about thanking the animal, giving it its due respect, helps in the transformation of the vibrational energy of the animal being ingestible or digestible within our own vibration. The same is when we pray over our food. Instead of getting our food and just starting to wolf it down, you take a moment to give thanks, and it brings in the spiritual life force, which revitalizes that food and makes it digestible for us.
You know, it kind of reminds me, what you're talking about kind of reminds me of Dr. Emoto, bless him. He just passed away a few months ago. And he does the water crystals. And if you have not experienced Dr. Emoto's work, I really suggest you Google him and take a look at his work, because the power of words, words are a vibration, affect the water crystals. And when you consider that we are mostly water, the words and the vibrations that, you know, we are greatly impacted, especially when it comes to our children, right? I'm going to be careful with that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. Nick?
Yeah, no, I've got nothing more to add, really, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to wind down the discussion for this week. And next week, Nina, what do we have coming up?
Well, we have a very exciting show next week. It's the four of us. We're starting our Advent season because next Sunday is December 1st. So the Advent of the light, isn't it? We're not talking about any particular religious pathway. We're talking about the bringing in of the light in the darkest time of year, and that's what Advent is about, is this waiting. And the topic of our show is going to be called Dealing and Healing. And Ted, Era, hopefully Nick, and myself will be discussing your participation, all things with dealing with the holiday season, particularly around relationships, stress, and all the things that come with expectations around holidays, and how to bring healing into your life by how you deal with those situations, and how can change the energy, change the vibration. So we look forward very, very much to have you next week on our show and join in that discussion.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important for people to understand that we're doing a different show each week, covering the different themes of the Christmas season, and all the way up to New Year's, actually, where we're going to be looking patterns and future predictions, etc. And take a look.
So I can give you the names of the shows.
Sure.
Heads up, we have on December 6th, we've got You're a Star and We've Got Your Number. So we're going to have an astrologer and a numerologist. Reflections on Connections, we're having 2 astrologers and psychic mediums on the show. And then we're having a show on the 20th with all 4 of us called The Light of Spirit, where we're going to be giving readings. And then for our show between Christmas and New Year's on the 27th, we're having a show called Cosmic Perspective with an astrologer and our lovely friend Simon Ludgate, who, well, he's the master of many things. So we've got a great lineup for the holiday season, and our New Year's show will be again looking at all things for 2016. So woohoo! Lots to look forward to, and we relish your participation, and we would ask you to invite your friends to come and join in our chat room, or if they can't be with us, to, of course, listen to our archive show. This show is on our YouTube account, on our website for www.virtualvisionfm.com. We'd also like to hear from you, so if you have comments or questions or topics that you would like us to cover, or even guest suggestions of people who would interest you, contact us at virtualvision@fm@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Nina. And I just want to let you know that the first show for the holiday season is actually next week, November 29th. So December 1st is actually a Tuesday. So it's November 29th next week. It's our holiday shows that run for the entire month of December. And we hope that you will be a participant and help us celebrate and reflect upon the past year and the coming year. Nick, it has been wonderful to have you back in the saddle again with us this week.
No, it's been great. Thank you. It would be more and more.
Oh, good. So hopefully you'll be able to participate next week and in all the holiday shows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a shortened format this week, people, and thank you very much for participating. And we will see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.